providing exceptional service, putting the patient first, demonstrating integrity, showing respect for patients, families, and one another, and being a trusted and loyal team player. These are the qualities that make a Georgetown University Hospital employee a superstar. Each year, the hospital honors its employee superstars as the best of the best.
When you think about Cura Personalis, it is Linda AMES-SOMERVILLE. She's amazing. She's an amazing nurse. She is somebody who truly puts the patient first. When we think about spirit values, it is always Linda with patient first. This particular incident was, unfortunately, one of our patients had died, and the patient and her family had not been in the United States for very long. And Linda had developed a very special bond with the patient and with her family. And they had a lot of questions about what to do. The family didn't know what to do as far as a funeral home, didn't know what to do about how to transport their loved one. And Linda stayed after her night shift. She stayed for over 5 hours. And she helped the family through this very, very trying time. She really provided the family with a lot of support, a lot of love, a lot of encouragement, and an incredible amount of help. And this is not unusual for Linda. This was just one great example of what Linda does and how it is that she cares for her patients and their families. Linda's the person that if you or your family member is ill, she's the one that you want to take care of you or to take care of your family member. She's consistently amazing, really. Every shift that she comes in, she's happy. She does a great job, and she truly, truly exemplifies Cura Personalis. And I'm very, very proud that we're recognizing her for what she does all the time.
Officer Jennifer was working in the emergency room. A gentleman was discharged and told her that he had no way to get home. So she got him a bus token. He said he couldn't do it, he wasn't feeling well, he needed to get a ride. He became very distraught. Officer Jennifer, being who she is, went out of her way to make a couple of phone calls to family members and got the mother on the phone, and after a long, lengthy conversation, she was able to secure the mother's permission to have him take a taxi home and have her pay for it. The gentleman was very pleased with that outcome, and the taxi showed up and she was able to get the gentleman into the taxi and he went home. So that's just one of many instances where she has gone above and beyond what she's required to do to help people. It's not uncommon for her to get blankets for patients, pillows, get them a cup of coffee to make sure they're comfortable, check on the status of patients that are in the back of the emergency room. She is one of the most caring officers that we have. She does an outstanding job of taking care of the patients here at the hospital. Her supervisors have nothing but glowing remarks about her performance. It's a pleasure to work with her. It's a pleasure to see her every day when she comes to work. Officer Jennifer is truly a superstar here at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital.
Truly, Leonard is a superstar. There was one patient that ended up confused, really didn't know quite what he was going through, and it was really hard to tell what was going on because there was a significant language barrier. The patient spoke Chinese only. You know, just by chance Leonard happened to speak some Chinese, and I think that the patient just really didn't understand that we were trying to help him out. He's been homeless, he's been kicked around the system a lot, and he actually had eloped off the floors. And I remember like getting a call that Leonard's found him and he's trying to convince him to come back to the hospital, and we were actually right down across from the French embassy. And when I came up on the scene, Leonard was actually sitting there genuinely trying to plead with the guy, and you know, as best as he could in his broken Chinese, that, you know, listen, this is what we're trying to do, this is what we can help out with. I think that there's other examples I can think of where Leonard's one of those people that have gone the extra mile, and he picks up things that I just had no clue about, or I just didn't even think of, and not only picks them up, but follows through on them. So he's a genuinely compassionate, genuinely caring person, and he cares not only about his patients, but he cares about his coworkers. He's one of those people that inspires the rest of us to do better at what we're doing, and make sure that we remember that, you know, part of our job here is supposed to be cura personalis, that we're supposed to be taking care of the entire patient. I definitely think that that's one of the things I admire the most about him.
I nominated Father Joe because the patient who was medically declared to be in a vegetative state. The partner of this patient was very close to her. I actually got to see them interact together, and it was a very loving couple. And he, knowing that she was going to die, he asked if they would be able to get married. I did explain to Father Joe they did have 3 small children. The family had explained that they believed that if she died and she was not married to him, she would not go to heaven because she was not married and had children. So he went ahead and put together a ceremony that would be a very appropriate blessing to the family and to the couple without marrying them. And it was a beautiful ceremony. But knowing that there's a family that needs the immediate assistance of, in this case, a priest, to fulfill a tradition that to them is extremely important, and for Father Joe to have gotten the extra mile to understand what the culture really meant and why this belief was so important, and it made a big difference. It was beautiful to see the family's reaction, and I don't think I'll ever forget that. This is not the only family that I have worked with Father Joe, and I've heard so many comments from so many people in so many different units that without him things would be different, and he's always there if you need him.
I nominated Fahim because he really went above and beyond to help my patient one day, and I was so impressed with everything that he did. I was trying to discharge a patient who'd been in the hospital for a while, and he was very eager to get home. We had been talking on the phone, and Fahim said, "Oh, is the patient going to go home on the pain medicine that he's been getting in the hospital?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, just make sure he can get it filled." And because it was about 5 o'clock and the patient did rely on narcotic pain medicine to help with his pain, Fahim sort of recognized that he might have to go home and not be able to get pain medicine till the next day. So he said, "Well, I'm willing to, take the patient's prescription down to the outpatient pharmacy and get it filled," because he knew the clock was ticking on the window of getting the pain medicine so my patient could go home. Well, the doctor hadn't written it yet, so I had to find the doctor. She was on the 5th floor. So Fahim went up to the 5th floor for me, met with the doctor, got the prescription, took it down to the outpatient pharmacy, waited while the outpatient pharmacy filled the prescription, and then brought it up and delivered it to the patient. He was just so outstanding. My patient was able to go home that night, and it's really because of Fahim's help. Otherwise, he either would have had to stay in the hospital another night, or he would have gone home and had to spend the night without any pain medicine. Fahim just went above and beyond. He was just, thinking about my patient's best interests, and he really put the patient first.
We had a situation occur in our dialysis unit. It was on a weekend. We're open on Saturdays, so this happened to be a Saturday. And one of her coworkers wasn't feeling quite well that day, but well enough to come into work. And a little bit later that morning, this particular coworker collapsed. Michelle quickly took the lead. Somebody else was in charge. That happened to be the person who fell ill. I was home, I was off, and I called in. And she said, I think that will be okay. And what initially started as a really quiet day ended up being kind of crazy. They added 8 patients to the schedule. So we ended up with a total of 14 treatments that day, which is pretty crazy for that unit. And she really just showed, as she always does, the qualities of a leader. I mean, she just stepped up to the plate. She was able to assess the situation, put her colleagues at ease. They were all shaken up, but they were all supporting each other and made sure that what could have been really kind of a crazy, crazy day run really smoothly. I think she is somebody who is very humble. Things that she does that one might consider above and beyond, she just says, oh, it's just a part of my job. She is very patient care focused. She takes the time to thoroughly explain things to patients. She tends to their special needs. She is very much a team player. We are so grateful to have Michelle on our team.
Maureen Martin is the kind of nurse that I would want to take care of me and to take care of my family. We actually had a situation where there were lab results from an infant that were of a critical value and needed to be communicated to the physician. Unfortunately, the wrong physician had been entered into the system, the computer system, and they were called to student health. So student health called us and said, we have a situation that needs to be rectified as far as a physician being assigned to an infant to get this information. So Maureen took it upon herself to investigate and find out who the physician was and to get the information to that physician and the mother. Unfortunately, the labs had gone to an outside lab, so she had to call them, and they provided the information to her. She put it all together, and she actually walked to another building and talked to the physician face-to-face to make sure that they understood what had happened so that the correct follow-up could be done, which was incredibly important for safety and for quality care. She provided outstanding service, safety. She was innovative. She communicated to all the parties involved in the situation. She is an incredible nurse. She demonstrates cura personalis every single day, and I am proud to work with her here at Georgetown.
I decided to nominate Lauren for a superstar because she was able to come down from another floor, not knowing the staff, not knowing our acuity of patients, and become one of our family members. And it really was a smooth transition. Lauren demonstrates our spirit values of patient first and service. I think the biggest way she was able to do that was by improving our workflow on the unit. We had some workflow issues that we probably didn't even realize that were there. And we were so used to just creating workarounds to make things as efficient as possible. Lauren noticed difficulty with the organization in our supply pyxis. She noticed difficulty in the layout of our nurses station. By knowing that we have the equipment available to do our job and that the equipment is organized, it makes things easier to deliver safe quality care to the patient. I think Lauren's #1 quality that we appreciate the most is the quiet way that she gets the job done. You don't always realize that she's doing things behind the scene when you go to her with a piece of information. She always shows her appreciation that you let her know that there was an issue. And then the next thing you know, she's solved the problem by communicating to that department, and she really closes the loop by getting back to the individual that had the concern. We're all really happy to have Lauren as our clinical manager on 4 East.
So a few months ago, we had a particular patient who was in between his therapy appointments, and he had about an hour break time in between the appointments. And while this patient was moving about in the waiting room, we noticed that he was at an increase for falls. He was very unsteady, and we were very nervous that he was going to fall. So Ebony took it upon herself to stay with this gentleman as he moved about in the waiting room and throughout the department, just to be with him in case he were to have a fall. During this instance, I think Ebony definitely demonstrated treating a patient with our mission of cura personalis. I mean, making sure that we are taking care of the whole person. For example, when he became hungry, she made sure she took care of him with that need. Also with the example of when he became nervous about that he thought he lost his wallet, or during the time when she thought he was going to lose his money under credit cards because he kept taking them out. She again cared for that need, and in making sure that his personal needs were met, along again with his safety, and looking at all aspects, his safety, his personal needs, his hunger, whatever that man needed during that hour, Ebony was there for him and was doing anything that she could to help him during that time.
I nominated Loretta after a letter I received from a patient of ours' mother, who was extremely grateful for something that Loretta did for them. In February, a patient was referred to us, a 17-year-old boy with chronic abdominal pain, who needed a surgery, and in order to get the surgery, he needed to have a certain procedure with us for clearance. And because of the space available in the endoscopy unit and the different provider schedules, the next available was in 2 weeks. I think that Loretta's work demonstrated a cura personalis in the fact that she was able to recognize the sense of distress and urgency in the mother when coordinating this appointment, as well as the rest of the family who was, there in the ordeal with the patient, and being able to work with her teammates to identify those resources that could be moved around to move up the procedure date. I think definitely demonstrates that strong sense of teamwork and putting the patient first no matter what. I'm so grateful to have Loretta on our team here in the Division of Gastroenterology. She's a role model to her peers, someone to look up to. She's been here for a while, she knows what to do. She remains so level-headed. We are such a busy practice, and phone ringing, having to move patients around, juggle appointments, handling a busy physician schedule. She just remains so calm and still finds time to help her colleagues if they need a helping hand. Loretta's personality keeps morale up. We're all here for a purpose for the patient, and she just makes it a much more pleasant environment to, serve that purpose.
That was easy.
That was easy.
He had admitted a patient from out of state. He's a very tall man, about 7'8", and he weighed over 500 pounds. So obviously he needed special equipment in order for us to provide care. So Luther had already provided a special bed for him, but we needed other things, like especially a walker, because he needed to get out of bed and walk with physical therapy in the hallways, and without that walker to support him, it would be unsafe. So I got on the internet and I made a lot of phone calls to all kinds of companies, and I was unsuccessful. So I called Luther, and the next day he shows up with this walker. I went in the room with him, and he talked to the patient and the patient's mom and showed them how to use the walker.
Luther demonstrates cura personalis by always putting the patient first. Not only getting them the equipment or supplies they need very quickly, but in just the way he interacts with them. He approaches everybody as an individual. He wants to get to know them. He wants to help make them feel comfortable. And like with this patient we were talking about, this was a young guy who was not happy to be in the hospital, and the first time he smiled, his whole admission was when he met Luther, and Luther got to know him a little bit and joked around with him and just talked to him like you would talk to a friend. And Luther went and visited him pretty much every day He was in the hospital. He called him once he went home to make sure everything was going okay. And it occurred to me when Doris and I were doing this nomination that Luther really goes above and beyond with every patient he meets, not just with this young man, but with everybody. You always know that he's going to give 110% to any patient that he meets, and really just goes out of his way to make people feel comfortable and feel safe.
Luther is the king of customer service.
Karla really dedicates herself to the patients and to all of her associates at Georgetown. There was a weekend shift where Karla was in charge, and one of the patients on the unit was a gentleman who had been there for several days, was a homeless gentleman, didn't have much family support. And Karla figured this out and really went out of her way to help this gentleman. He hadn't had a real shower in a long time, so she helped him shower. She went down to the ED and got some clothes for him and really made him feel special. You know, in a busy unit with a lot of really sick people, she just made this gentleman feel really comfortable, and he hadn't felt that comfortable in a long time. She really figured out what this patient needed. He certainly had a lot of medical needs, but he needed to be made comfortable, and he needed to feel like he was being taken care of. And that made all of his medical care much easier, and it was definitely patient first. When Karla's on the unit, it's usually a happy day no matter what's going on. She really gets everyone else enthusiastic about what they're doing and taking care of the patients. It's infectious and always positive, and it really makes it a nice place to work when Karla's around.
Georgetown University Hospital superstars are truly extraordinary people. As the hospital moves from good to great, our superstars are the ones that lead by example and live the values that will bring us to the next level. Congratulations, and thank you for putting our patients first and bringing the spirit of Georgetown to life each and every day.